First Davos interview of 2017 is a very special guest. Sanjeev Bajaj joins us right here on ETR. Thank you very much. It's only fair that I first talk to you about India and then about Davos. We're trading in market hours. You are somebody who's got his skin in the game. Demonetization is also a point of discussion here in Davos. Not so much of debate, but discussion indeed. You had earlier said it's going to take about 3, 4, 5 odd months. When do you see normalcy return, and what kind of changes have you seen in the business per se because of demonetization?
Supriya, as you know, our businesses across Bajaj Finance and our two insurance companies have been growing very well this year. So to that extent, when I'm talking of slowdown, it's a lower growth. It's not a fall in growth. And it's not a negative growth, let's put it this way. We saw some amount of slowdown across different business lines in November, between 15-20%. That has improved in December. January is better. I think on the consumer side, within the next couple of months, I would say latest by end of March, I would expect to see normalcy. We have to wait and watch on the SME side, because we know that SME customers, their basic habits are more cash driven. They start adjusting slowly to a more digital economy, which long term makes a lot of sense. It could take them a little longer to recover.
So when you say a little longer, for the rest of the segment it could be March. For them it could be another 6, 7, 8 odd months?
That's very difficult to say. I think it just depends on how soon they and their entire network of buyers and sellers start adopting digital options. Plus, let's be clear, I think the queues are already shorter. They may not have disappeared, but they're shorter. So as the new money starts moving around, in a way that solves the problem as well. The move towards demonetization is a second step gradually to make the economy far more efficient.
Indeed, but 65 to 70% of lending in at least your business is to the salaried class. What are the kind of consumer behavior patterns that you've seen changed in terms of both discretionary spending and and essential spending as well, in terms of investments that they're making in businesses like yours?
Again, we need to distinguish between, say, rural customers who had lower access to cash initially and lower income customers, say, half of our motorcycle financing. There clearly we saw a postponement of sales in November and December. But when I look at other segments, which for us is upper middle class and above, we've not seen much of a difference, because many of them were already operating through banking channels, through electronic means.
So I have to ask you a question. You said two-wheelers did see a slowdown, at least postponement of purchase. When do you see normalcy return to that? You've obviously reduced your outlook on lifestyle consumption as well. So when do you see normalcy return to, say, rural lending, because that is where the two-wheelers are being bought? And that is the segment that has also been hit.
So two-wheelers, I talked about the two-wheeler financing, which is what we end up doing. For the reasons that I explained, as we start seeing normalcy with respect to availability of the new currency, that should bring in normalcy on the two-wheeler side, because nothing has really changed for that consumer. Right now, the guy was standing in the queue in November, December, so he didn't go and buy a motorcycle. But if he needs that, he eventually does have to go and buy one. So I would say March end. Same would be true on the rural side, because again, most of them in our case would be salaried customers there. And as they get access to new currency, I would expect this to get normalized as well. As far as our general consumer durable financing is concerned, as you know, the first half of this year we grew 40-45%.
That's right, yes.
We consciously slowed down even before the demonetization process.
Why was that so?
Because with that growth, as we started expanding to multiple customer segments, we started seeing some early stress in the economy, and consciously we cut down some of our growth. But as I said, from that very high growth number, we will still be at a very reasonable growth number even in this period.
And what would be the growth drivers be? What is your growth outlook? I mean, you say that you've consciously slowed down because you saw early signs of stress. But what will the growth drivers be, and where do you see growth numbers? 40 to 45% is perhaps a little overheated. Where would those numbers settle?
The 40-45% is, of course, a very strong growth number. It isn't overheated because it is the result of us being present in over 30 different business lines in Bajaj Finance. And because this is a very retail business, we calibrate city by city to see what the quality of the new book is. And that makes us slow down where required or grow where required. And this is a continuous process. You may see it happening in a quarter or two, and as we see lower stress, or as we redo our own algorithms to find better quality customers, because we're eventually in Bajaj Finance working with over 20 million customers.
That's right.
So it's just a question of looking at the right opportunities and sub-segments.
So if I may just turn focus to the insurance businesses, both life and general doing very well for you, but where do you see growth really come from? And what is also your view on competition? There's been a bit of an M&A there. Are you yourself open to something like this? So 3 questions there all bundled into one.
As far as the life business is concerned, we've seen significant growth this year come from our agency channel. We were working the last 2 years on transforming this channel. Our ticket sizes have more than doubled. Our productivity is up. Our persistency is significantly up, more than 7-8 percentage points year on year. So that's where we've got the big bang for our buck right now. We are also working with a few new banker opportunities. If that happens, that gives us additional growth. On the general insurance side, it's been very interesting. It's really been crop insurance, health, motor slowed down, as we know, the last 2 months.
Right.
But it's been crop and health over there. But at a more general level, I would say that most of our lines are showing a reasonable amount of growth.
So is Sanjeev Bajaj willing to give me a market share that he has in mind, both for general and life? A
As long-
target market share?
No target market share as long as it keeps going up with the right bottom line. That's very important.
Indeed. So negotiations have been on since 2015 with your foreign partner Allianz to hike stake or to exit the business. If they were to do so, it will be done at a fair value. Where are negotiations and talks on that? I mean, I know you're in a silent period, but I'm still taking my chances because I think market participants would want to know what has happened with other foreign players as far as the fair value transactions go.
As far as the market participants are concerned, if and when there is a decision, we will inform the exchanges. Allianz said we keep discussing all kinds of things for the last 15 years. Beyond that, I can't comment on this.
I do understand you're in a silent period as well, and which is why I just want to turn focus and talk to you about a larger picture in India. Some people here in Davos that we've been speaking to do believe that India really was the toast of the town till 2 years back, and then we just saw a considerable slowdown in reforms. There was legislative logjam, and there's been a considerable slowdown, even something as important as the GST. How easy or difficult is it for participants like you to convince the audience here in Davos that things will get better? Or are you someone who's also beginning to doubt the kind of reform momentum that would be so, and is it sustainable?
No, I'm not doubting that at all. I think there's tremendous opportunity that India offers. And not only that, look at the last 15 years. You may always have a couple of slow years. You could have political logjams, as you referred to as well. But I think our direction is correct, one. Second, outside investors see that. You may have a few other markets that are the talk of the town for a particular period of time or for a year or two. But the structural opportunity that India provides with 1.3 billion people is very clearly something that is stable and that's not long term, but that's happening right now. We, of course, would like it to be faster. But we also need to understand as businessmen, it's sometimes far easier for us to take decisions and move ahead.
Indeed.
We don't have a whole opposition opposing everything that we are trying
That's
to do.
true. And that's the big difference between policymakers and businessmen. One last question before I let you go, Sanjeev, and this is more big picture. The event in Davos this year is really dominated by the new world order. Nobody saw Brexit. Nobody saw Brexit coming. Nobody saw Donald Trump winning elections. And of course, the Chinese president here, the first ever state visit. What is the discourse, according to you, that is going to dominate Davos? Because a lot of people believe we are entering new uncharted territory in the world where globalization seems to be a bad word.
It's going to be a very interesting discourse after, I would say, decades and decades of a simple belief that capitalism is the right way to move ahead, and which I still believe it is. And with the realization that it takes everybody up across all income segments. We have now been in a situation post-2008 where income levels have risen far more disproportionately in the past. And those in the developed markets, in the lower income areas, have actually seen no income rises in the last 10 years, 20 years. And this is the Brexit, the elections in the US, I believe, though I'm no expert, is really the result of that. And that's why for people like us who have been brought up in an environment and an economy where we don't really see a lot of what's happening with this section of society,
That's right.
probably end up missing out on it. And I think that's where the Davos theme of both responsive but responsible leadership is
comes
very
in.
key for us to keep in mind.
On that note, Mr. Bajaj, thank you very much for speaking to us and giving us our first interaction here in Davos. Thanks very much indeed.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.